afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? The program will begin in 5 minutes. At this time, please move to your seats so that we can start on time today. As a reminder, please silence your electronic devices and leave them on so that you can text or email your questions for our guest speakers to the address on the screen. askmetna@gmail.com.
10X National Security, we don't just build software, we build for adoption. We design solutions that make it easy for national security teams to operationalize new and emerging technologies, ensuring they deliver real-world impact where it matters most. From digital transformation to custom software development, our work helps agencies modernize operations, streamline processes, and strengthen America's security posture, today and for generations to come. Our team brings deep expertise across leadership development with software factories, cloud computing, AI engineering, systems integration, and business process improvement, all aligned to support mission success. We believe in radical transparency, speed, and simplicity. We partner closely with our clients to solve complex challenges and deliver secure, scalable, user-friendly tools that drive measurable outcomes. At 10X, we are proud to support those who protect our country, and we're committed to shaping a safer, stronger future for all Americans. If you're looking for a team that leads with purpose and builds with impact, we're ready to work. Visit us at 10xnationalsecurity.com. 10X National Security, leading the way to what's next.
You know, most defense tech sounds impressive until you realize it's just PowerPoint slides and vaporware. Slow, clunky, stuck in dev hell. And when timelines stretch 12 to 24 months just to get a demo online, that's not going to cut it. So forget the funding cycle. The field is where it has to work. That's what we built for. At 10X National Security, we deliver mission-first tech fast, no hype, just impact. vDetect cut thread dwell time by 70% and sped up incident triage by 5 times during red team ops. Redhound deploys in under 15 minutes from cold start. Voxaverse and Vortex HMI are already fielded across DDIL and tactical edge environments, not stuck in dev, but out there now. This is all built by agile squads of AI engineers, software devs, and veteran operators, so we don't sell bloat, we ship capability. So look, if you're under pressure to modernize, let's make it simple for you. All you have to do is visit us at 10xnationalsecurity.com and book a 30-minute mission brief or tailored demo, and we'll show you exactly how fast this can go. No hype, just results. Visit us in person or online, and we'll look forward to showing you what real capability looks like.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Captain Ray Cross, U.S. Navy retired, Vice President for Intelligence, AFCEA International.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome back and good afternoon. I hope everyone had a great lunch. I hope you had time to visit our exhibitors, make some new connections, and also connect with some old connections. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Major General Denise McPhail, Commanding General, U.S. Army Network Enterprise Technology Command. Some quick context first. I was thinking this morning how good it is to be outside of the D.C. metro area. If any of you have had the opportunity, or some would say misfortune, to have a Pentagon assignment, you probably know the legend about the old Pentagon hot dog stand being a target during the Cold War for Soviet nuclear missiles. The folklore is that the Soviets could not figure out why so many people were coming and going from this small structure in the middle of a Pentagon courtyard. They thought it was a secret entrance to an underground bunker, and that's why that courtyard was jokingly referred to as Ground Zero. Well, today it is not a joke to consider that the likelihood of Ground Zero lying within the cyber domain is very high. And in the Army, General McPhail leads the Network Enterprise Technology Command to ensure freedom of action within the cyber domain and to deny our adversaries the same. Her vision and mission focus is deeply threat-informed, having spent 3 years at Indo-PACOM, culminating in her service as the J6, Director of Command Control, Communications, and Cyber. Please join me in welcoming General McPhail to the podium.
Pardon? Yeah. All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. I like that walk-up music. I thought about doing a jig up the stairs and then I'd be a casualty of TechNet. But wow, that light, just in case anybody's not been up on this stage, super bright, like super bright. Hey, first of all, it is great to be back in Augusta. It is great to be at TechNet. It is great not to be in the Pentagon anymore and at Fort Huachuca. So the one thing I promise is I won't tell any rattlesnake stories right now. If you want to hear about them, feel free to ask me about it. So you're going to see this image up here on the screen. It's a boat. And I know everybody's like, what the heck is McPhail doing showing a boat? Too much time at Indo-PACOM? I don't know. I'm sure there will be plenty of jokes to follow. But in a serious note, I learned how to row crew of 8s. That's what this is. A couple years ago. I thought I was going to be a unicorn, and this was unique. I was going out to learn how to row as a middle-aged woman. I joined a class with about 25 middle-aged women who also wanted to learn how to row. But I used to see these posters, and you would see, it always had teamwork underneath it. And I was like, it can't be that hard. It's just a bunch of people in a boat rowing. I underestimated how hard it was. And I will tell you, rowing really epitomizes teamwork. Everyone in the boat has a single goal, and that is to move as fast as possible down the course. And that success depends on each rower being completely synchronized with each other. So the interdependencies in rowing is like nothing I've ever seen, not in any other sport. There is no one all-star. There is no one person that can carry the team. There is no most valuable player. Even the strongest rower can't carry the boat if one rower gets out of the ribbon. And it's rhythm, excuse me. It's referred to as the drag. So this right here, I'm happy to report I did not do it this bad when I was rowing. But this is called catching a crab. You catch the crab, it hurts really bad, and you can get ejected out of the boat. But this is just an example to show what happens if you get out of sync, if you're out of rhythm with rowing. So what I have found, though, through rowing, that there are plenty of life and leadership lessons to draw from rowing. The synchronization, and I want to draw those back to what I'm going to talk to you about today, and that's the Army Unified Network. Because that synchronization, alignment, and unity of effort required to win at eights is very similar characteristics required to successfully secure, operate, and defend the Army's Unified Network. So what I'll do is I'm going to walk you through, if I can hit the click, yes. I'm going to walk you through this and kind of describe what the boat is and what each rower's responsibility is and tie it back to the network. And so it is 3 qualities that have to be achieved in that boat by these individuals' responsibilities, and that is power, rhythm, and balance. And so what you're seeing here is how we're reflecting that power, rhythm, and balance of the unified network. And so I'm going to walk you through the seats. So first of all, seat 8, while it looks like it's the front of the boat, is technically the back of the boat. You row backwards. And so I'll walk you from 8 through 1. But seat 8 and 7 are known as the stern 2. And they set the pace. They set the rhythm. And so as we look at what is setting the pace and giving us that rhythm of the Army Unified Network, it is integrating new capabilities. It is being able to onboard applications quickly, being able to do that integration with APIs into our 365 environment. It's working with the next-gen C2. It's getting to one identity. It's using that single sign-on to access these capabilities. And I'll talk a little bit more of what we're doing as well with next-gen C2 as we go through. The next one is enhance and support the warfighter. And that is really about, that's about how we operate the network. So we say it a lot that we are regionally focused and globally integrated. And what does that mean? Or theater focused and globally integrated. You can interchange them. But what does that mean, really? The theaters have their own professionals, cyber and signal professionals there that are a mix between the regional cyber centers, the signal brigades, as well as those theater signal commands. They focus on that theater. They focus on that theater's requirements and being able to support them in their training as well as their readiness and getting ready to deploy. And then the GCC and the entire NetComm enterprise provides what we refer to as the global integration. So that machine is in the back, globally integrating all those different theaters in the regions. And so then we go into seats 6 through 3. 6 through 3 is where the power comes from. It is the engine of that boat. And so I'll walk you from 6 down to 3. 6 is about, hey, how do we improve that domain availability and security? Absolutely critical to the power of the unified network. And we'll do that, I'll give you a couple examples, through the Zero Trust Framework, leveraging Comply to Connect, Army Endpoint Security, as well as the Unified Security Incident and Event Management. And then we'll continue to walk down to where now I'll go into 5, and it's about enabling the data-centric operations. How do we do that? Well, we're going to do that through providing on-premise private cloud. We do this through our Army Edge Computing Centers. We also leverage that off-prem commercial cloud. And then we'll go down to SEAP 4. SEAP 4 is really, it is that delivering the agile connectivity. It is, some examples of it is what we're doing with the software-defined networking. We're rolling out software-defined networking. The program is referred to as AGUN, Army Global Unified Network. We have the first node installed at Fort Huachuca. Fort Huachuca is now completely off of JRSS. We have moved on to JBLM, and then we will move over to Fort Carson next, which also happens to be the home of where we're starting Next Gen C2. So by doing this, we're also leveraging, we're really looking at how do we reimagine transport? And it's transport writ large. So how are we going to leverage diverse transport, including indigenous cellular where available? How do we fully utilize the DoD's teleport to provide warfighters that unparalleled agility and access to a persistent DoD environment of geosynchronous MIL-SATCOM, commercial SATCOM, as well as LEO and MEO. We're working with the 101st right now. We started a small pilot with them on the 18th of August to start looking at how do we bring in their tactical equipment from the edge, leveraging all the transport that is available to them, not just the RHNs. Next is we have the Global Secure Network. And what is that? That is the modernized SIPRNet. It will make it more agile for the warfighter from base. We'll move through to allow us to move through the port, to the ISB, and to the area of operations. And more importantly, it's going to take out many of the cumbersome Type 1 encryption devices, which have been, they present their own unique challenge. You have to have the PDSs and the offices, et cetera. So this is a zero trust implementation. We're leveraging the same technology, but improving it that we use for CSFC. And then we have provide seamless movement. And how are we doing that? That is through the Army Unified Directory Services. We have, on the young class network is where we're the most mature right now, but we have converged and decommissioned all these different Active Directory domains we had. So those of you who remember the days back in OIF, OEF, where you had to deploy, but the SIGOs had to get there about 2 to 4 weeks early so they could go get all their computers re-imaged. Those days are gone. Even just going from one base post camp station to another, you're having to re-image those computers. So this takes that away. We no longer have to re-image those computers. We also are providing more power or more capability for that user that I'll hit on here on number 1. And so we are currently working with 4ID Next Gen C2. They're bringing in the Next Gen C2 end user devices. And we're working with them from the very beginning. So if you go back, if you were in here and you listened to the young major from 101st talking about being able to integrate new capabilities quickly, that's exactly what the team has been working. And it's a team of teams, by the way. It's not just NetCom. And so we are working to onboard them into AUDS now and not later. And so, of course, there's things that we always will have to work through, ATOs, et cetera, but we've already started onboarding some of those devices today. Okay, seat 1 and 2. That is known as the bow 2. They provide the balance for the boat. And so that balance is going to be provided by, 1, we're going to lessen the complexity for the warfighter. This is going to allow us to extend SIPR and NIPR services seamlessly to the operational edge, making it accessible to the edge. We'll also be providing self-help tools. So when I talked about self-help tools, if you go back to 3, when I talked about the provide seamless movement AUDS, the IMOs, the 6s, the G6s, even the individuals in the office, a normal user, have more power to add applications to their desktop than they've ever had, to be able to onboard systems into AUDS. We have been able to put the control measures in place, ensure the training is there, and allow the SIX community and those IMOs to do that. Next is how do we further empower them? How do we ensure we have the appropriate administrative privileges down to that edge so that senior mission commanders, signal forces can start doing the work for their headquarters. So when they pick up and they deploy, they're able to continue to be able to provide that service, and they're able to maintain their craft. So, one of the things I didn't really talk about at the beginning was, this is all about setting the boat. And so when you look at that power, rhythm, and balance, it's about setting the boat to be able to seamlessly row with all that power. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to set the Army's Unified Network, which is going to enable, oh, hey, I have to change. I said next slide. It's me. Okay, don't worry. We are setting the Army Unified Network that will enable that speed, that precision, and that power for our warfighters. Okay, so that is about my time. I'm looking at the clock. In case y'all didn't know, you should come up here and stand on here and see how bright the lights are and see the ticker that's counting down. But I do want to thank you for your time. I'd also like to thank the Cyber Center of Excellence in AFCEA for putting together another great convention and giving me the time to share with you everything that the Army's doing, NetCom, as well as the rest of the team of teams, G6, our cyber, to deliver the Army's Unified Network. So if you have further questions, we have a booth right outside that you can go and talk to. We also have, and you can hit our QR code and get even more information. There are classes, or not really classes, workshops being led by some of my Iron Majors and Lieutenant Colonels and civilians on these capabilities and how to use them, and it provides a great opportunity to ask any questions of a deeper dive that you would like. So with that being said, hope you all have a great day. And with that, I am excited to hear from the joint PEO panel. I know I'm not sure, I don't think I'm supposed to introduce them, but I just did a teaser for you. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the conference and the humidity. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Please welcome Ray Cross back to the stage.
Thank you, General McPhail, for those remarks. I think rowing is an impactful metaphor that'll stick with all of us long after today's over. Speaking about the power, rhythm, balance required to support the unified network and the capabilities required to make all 8 positions work together seamlessly. As a show of our appreciation, AFCEA will make a donation to the Signal and Cyber Museum Society on your behalf. And to introduce our next panel, please welcome to the podium John Eubank, founder of 10X National Security.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Joint PEO panel at TechNet Augusta 2025. As was mentioned, I'm John Eubank, founder of 10X National Security, and we are a proud supporting partner of TechNet Augusta. Awesome points that were just made. I prepared some speaking points ahead of time, and they just happened to hit on what was talked about, which is at 10X National Security, we firmly believe culture drives great teams of 10X talent to exceptional outcomes. Our culture of S303, which is not speed, precision, power, but is very close, is speed, science, simplicity, ownership, openness, and opportunity. Everything we build, including our collaboration and AI platforms that rapidly transform complex data into clear, actionable intelligence for mission-critical decisions. S303 isn't just a culture statement. It's how we empower operators to secure our nation's future. It's how we build real working software using real agile processes. I'm pleased and happy to introduce our next session on behalf of AFCEA International. Our moderator, Chief Warrant Officer Tim Reyna, retired. Our panelists, Mr. Lee James III, I'm the 4th, by the way, so excited to see another Roman numeral here on stage, Deputy Program Executive Officer of PEO STRI. Brigadier General Robert McKesh, Jr., Deputy Program Executive Officer, PEO Enterprise. Mr. Lawrence Mixon, Deputy Program Executive Officer, PEO IE/WNS, and Mr. Ward Roberts, Assistant Program Executive Officer, PEO C3N. For those in the audience, come find me. We got some high-level overviews of 10X, but over to the panel. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this afternoon session. My name is CW4 Tim Reyna, retired. I am the FCA CIO CTO for FCA International, and today I have the honor of moderating this panel with a joint panel with the PEOs. I'm going to take a quick moment just to introduce each PEO and their role and what they're doing here. To my immediate left, we have Mr. Myron Mixon.
Lawrence.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Mr. Lawrence Mixon, excuse me. He is the acting deputy for IEWS, PEO for IEWS. We have Mr. Ward Roberts. He's the acting PEO for
he's deputy.
Deputy PEO for PEO C3N. And then we have Brigadier General Mikish, Deputy PEO for Enterprise, and then Mr. Lee James, Deputy PEO for PEO STRI. Please welcome our guests today, ladies and gentlemen. So, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of changes going on across DoD, across the Army, and I think a lot of us have seen that through this first couple months with a change in administration. And today we have 4 topics that we're going to be looking at, and the topics that we're going to start off first is just supporting readiness and modernization across the workforce and our platforms that we have. When you look at the challenges that we've been facing here across the PEOs and just across in general, across DoD, we wanted to get your perspectives on how we're looking at supporting readiness and modernization. So I'll start off with Mr. Mixon for IEWS. Sir, as you look at the priorities that you have within your organization, you know, and the capabilities that you have across IEWS, what are you doing differently to accelerate and deliver the capabilities to the warfighter, sir?
Well, I will tell you, on behalf of Brigadier General Kevin Cheney, who is the PEO, he's supposed to be here today, I welcome the opportunity to talk on his behalf. We are all about transformation, and we are really following the adage of one band, one sound. So that means we are getting clear requirements from the stakeholder community. That's the Army G2, the G357, as well as the units themselves in order to modernize and transform in contact. So we have been very aggressive across our entire portfolio in that regard, forming new partnerships with several units and then extending partnerships with units we've been working with habitually over the last 10 years that I've been with the PEO. We're looking into, again, agile methods to deliver capability faster. We're doing soldier, I won't call them touch points because that's not in vogue, but we are literally taking our team with other members within the community, the requirements community, our industry partners, to the units to figure out how to get kit in their hand and how to use it and employ it in a future warfighting context.
No, great answer, sir. And I think that's what we're seeing here. There's a lot of great relationships that we need to maintain and continue building there across all stakeholders, sir. So thank you for that answer. Moving over, Mr. Roberts, looking at your portfolio, sir, for the C3N, and you just think about what's recently happened, right, with the stand-up of NGC2 as a program office, right, and some major organizational shifts, right? That's important for us to hear that. We'd like to hear, you know, how are you guys doing it right now when you're looking at integrating communications and capabilities faster and more effectively, sir?
So I think I'll talk about what we're doing, but I think it's an Army as a whole. I think we have historically had very stovepipe, risk-averse processes. So whether it was the development of our requirements and then starting a program, and then talking about sustainment, and then talking about readiness. I think now we're seeing where the evolution of requirements are in the weeks and months versus years. We're seeing programs that are starting up in the weeks and months. We are tailoring both the requirements and the programs to specific formations. The good major from 101st earlier, great layout of how the divisions are driving modernization, and the PEOs are aligning with those divisions to understand the unique aspects of the 101st versus 4th ID. Both divisions, but completely different structures. So we're looking at changing the mindset of one giant program, fielded for the next 10 to 15 years, whether you like it or not, this is what you're getting. You know, I use the analogy every now and then about the iPhone, because the chief loves to hold an iPhone up saying it's not a radio. But nobody wants the iPhone 6. But in our old model, I would have started buying the iPhone 6 10 years ago, and I'd still be fielding it to you today. So changing from that risk-averse model, looking at being a little bit more liberal in what we call a requirement and a little bit more liberal in what we call a program, and then having that touch point with the units. We stood up an organization inside the PEO, and I think it's promulgating across ASALT with the Trail Boss. That gives us a dedicated post-command 06 who has a team dedicated to engaging with the units. I think we've actually moved a couple of guys out to Fort Carson to sit down with Fort ID and prep for PCC 6. So that integration with the unit, leadership's acceptance of a little bit more risk on the definition of the processes, and then the ability to work across those teams, parallel versus sequential, has really helped us move things along. A few things that come out that has helped us out. The OTAs have helped us a lot. The commercial solutions opening vehicles have given us a couple of contract mechanisms. Some support from the acquisition executive on how we shape our programs and what we use. Software Pathways has been very helpful, especially on the data and apps layer. That's really been helpful for us to work with industry closer and faster, and then work with the unit closer and faster. And then the last piece of trying not to do trillion-dollar contracts for the next 10 years of hardware allows us to do smaller contracts, more iterative. I think the combination of all that together with a little bit of emphasis from leadership has allowed us to go a little bit faster, and hopefully that's answering some of the challenges the good major gave us this morning.
No, understood, sir. And those are a lot of great points there. And when you think about just having people, boots on ground, that's important that we get that feedback. And that's going to help out with the acquisition process and the OTAs. That's something that's been pretty helpful for what I'm hearing as well. So thank you for that. Sir, I'm moving over to PEO Enterprise. So General Mikas. So as we look at, PEO Enterprise is the center of one of the largest modernizations for ERPs and just enterprise in general. When you look at some of the stuff that's happened from the digital marketplace, EBSC, and when you look at what's going on there, what changes are at Enterprise have you been seeing to help acquire and deliver the enterprise capabilities, sir, that you guys have?
Great. First off, thanks for having us and letting us talk about this. Going to definitely hear some themes, I think, across this panel here today about change. A year ago, I sat on this stage and had a different name even. So we've really even rebranded within the last year from PEO Enterprise Information Systems back to Enterprise. Our transformation really started in the spring of 2023, pivoting all of our programs to Agile software. And really for us, the beginning of moving to the software pathway. So everything now comes out of that, of course, is .87 in the software pathway. So that pivot to Agile was our practices, first and foremost, new language, new culture changes, a new mindset, and I would say new partnerships. Not only with our industry partners, but very much so with our functionals and our users. That really has fundamentally changed how we think about software from the requirements through delivery and of course, sustaining those activities. Another big change we've done is we completely changed our relationship with software OEMs. Yeah. Putting OEMs direct on contract with the government and having them help us work with systems integrators so to ensure that they should know their product better than anyone, to make sure that we're making the right configurations and the right employment of that software. The other thing is really and I think Ward hit on it too, it's the involvement of the functional community, and I like to use that in two different ways in my context. First, the functionals learning Agile with us and becoming product owners actually on our sprint teams from the functional organization. But then we take it one step further, and that's kind of when you talk about the divisions, and that's user groups, really having users and hands-on with our software. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later today. And then lastly, the emergence of CSOs, commercial solutions openings, that has changed the way we do contracting. And then the last thing a lot of people are seeing, I'm talking to a lot of folks today as I walk around, is really the maximizing the use of low-code, no-code platforms. Mm-hmm. That is becoming more prevalent in almost every single new program we have across the PEO.
Very nice, yeah. Thank you, sir. Mr. James, PEO STRI, a lot of stuff going on in your organization, sir, so I appreciate you being here with us as well. So just looking at what's going on in your foxhole, sir, at your level, right? Maybe just share some of your thoughts of how you guys are doing your continuous transformation when it comes to the simulation and training, sir, that you guys take care of.
Sure. So, hey, thanks, Tim. And before I address your question, let me just thank you and AFCEA for this opportunity. It's an honor to share the stage with my esteemed colleagues here. We were
catching up a little bit there in the prep room, and hey, this is good stuff. So it's glad to share some time with y'all. But hey, you're right. So STRI, simulation training and instrumentation, and that's our name. But we do a little bit more than that, right? So we also do the testing capabilities. We support the testing capabilities for DOT&E and ATEC. We also do cyber. We provide cyber capabilities, and we also deliver threat capabilities with our TISMO office out of Huntsville. So we deliver, provide, and manage 300 plus products across those domains. So everything from individual soldier training to crew training, whether it's the Apache, the Bradley, and the rotations. I think Major Johnson had it up this morning, all those events that he had across his time horizon, those CTC rotations, we support that. Those warfighter exercises, those CPXs, we're an integral part. Our training aids, devices, and simulators drive and enable all of those events and engagements. So, and we also maintain it, right? So we're our own sustainment arm, if you will. So we really provide that full life cycle management of the Army's training devices, aids, and simulators. And along with that, we're managing roughly 200 or so security cooperation efforts, FMS, foreign military sales across. I think we're up to 64 countries now. So I only say all that to say, if we're talking Army readiness, we're talking about PEO STRI is part of that equation. So when we talk continuous transformation, really for us that means transforming from PMs, if you will, cost schedule performance, to problem solvers, right? So we can do the PM stuff in our sleep, right? But what we really need to focus on is what those problem areas are, and help the Army use that authority to help solve some of these problems. Major Johnson alluded to some of them this morning. If you remember his time horizon chart that had the layers or the lines of effort, the network piece, the transport piece, and whatnot. So for us, for STRI, that's really the resource intensity that it takes for us to support those events, those CTC rotations, those warfighters. It takes anywhere from 300 to 400 to 500 people to support those exercises now. That's because of our past architecture. So we're moving away from that, going towards a less resource intensive, the chief will call it low overheads, right? So we've got to reduce not only the manpower overhead, but the IT stacks as well, because we're toting around these IT stacks because of our closed loop networks that we use to support the event. So we're really taking that next generation constructive training capability to the cloud. So those two areas are what we're focused on. So when we think CTI, that's what we think is STRI, among other things.
Nice. So just wrapping up the readiness and modernization, as you can see from the Intel Tactical Enterprise and from the simulation training, there's a lot of cross-cutting capabilities there, and we all have to be in sync there. So it's great that y'all talked about that a little bit. Just moving over now, I know that Mr. Roberts, you mentioned OTA, right? So we're going to move a little bit over to contracting and agile acquisition, right? So I think that's important for us to understand where we're at with that, and I think a lot of people in the audience understand what has happened over the years with the OTAs. But let's look at it from this perspective. As we know, there's all these changes that have been going on, right? And how the Army is doing acquisition and procurement to support soldiers from a traditional method to new pathways, such as OTAs. What I want to do is let's see if we can go down the line here and just start off with Mr. Roberts and just look at from the C3N side, right? You guys have led our efforts around rapid prototyping, commercial acquisitions, and mid-tier pathways, right? As you look at what you guys have done and how this is balancing the speed, the accountability, and the overall flexibility, which you've mentioned a little bit on using the OTAs and Army Open Solicitation, can you help answer or just share a little bit of your insights on what you guys are doing at C3N, sir?
Well, so a couple things, and really it's about restructuring the programs to tailor the ask of us from the unit to something that's tangible in their time frame. A lot of that is scaling down from the Army requirement of 103,000 systems to the division requirement of 10,000 systems. When you shape that requirement and you look at asking industry to deliver a capability or shaping a program and the risk associated with it at that much smaller scale, the magnitude of risks are much lower. The availability of technology is what's available today, so we're not in the significant R&D, got to start from a 6.1, 6.2 kind of level. So focusing on commercial solutions, things that are relatively off the shelf or directly off the shelf, tailoring it to a scale that's appropriate for the division and the time frame that we're going after that division. Allows us to put smaller programs, which allows us to be pushed down from a delegation perspective. That combined with the actual mechanism of the contract has helped us out. But really, I think the scale of the efforts, instead of being the Army at one time, shifting down to division at one time, has been the fundamental thing. But smaller scale means delegation of authorities, delegation of contract values, contract values become lower, therefore it's easier to push down the scale on the contracting side as well. But that's fundamentally been what's allowed us to tailor programs to be more agile, but more responsive, and then we build in an iterative cycle where we learn lessons from the 101st and we take those lessons and apply to the next unit. So before we even finish the first iteration, we're already on to the next one and taking those lessons learned, as opposed to the old days where we would spend 3 years negotiating a $200 billion contract and then be stuck with that same vehicle for the next year, 5 years, 6 years. So I think scale would be the first thing I would say. That's what's given us the ability to kind of go more agile in how we do business. Every different product, hardware, software, has got a little bit different shape of how we use the acquisition pathways. And in many cases, the OTAs or a CSO provides us the contract mechanism. But I can't leave out the impact on the force mod systems and the processes in the building that drive us in certain behaviors that have helped us out as well. MTAs were very hard for us to execute because they basically became as bureaucratic as ACAP programs. And a lot of things in the Army processes were not triggered by a mid-tier acquisition. So you didn't get a BOI, you didn't get on the MTO, you didn't trigger trim dollars, so the unit didn't have the ability to sustain the new stuff because they had to keep all the old stuff in the fleet. So we say acquisition, but it's not little a acquisition to us, it's big A acquisition changing that's really enabled that, because if we have smaller, simpler requirements, we have more delegation of authority, funding aligned to the capabilities and not the specific system, all have kind of come together at the right place and time to get us that agility in meeting the user's needs.
No, awesome, sir. Thank you for that. But I think there's a lot of challenges when it comes to just scaling and just delivering at speed, right? Because in the masses, there's volumes and volumes from the PEO sides that you guys have to take on just with the core, with the divisions, right? And just to maintain for those of us that saw this morning, we keep referring to the major's brief, it's a massive undertaking, right? So and it's important that we have those contracts in place so that we can meet that at scale and speed, right? Mr. Mixon, moving over to you, sir, as you look at it in your PEO, sir, and how things are working out for you guys, it's been that a lot of traditional defense contractors have been within you and your team, but now you're looking at emerging tech sectors that are coming in that have stuff at TRL readiness levels, at different levels that are ready to go today, and how we're doing things now. And looking at the contracting approaches and what you guys are doing, what are some ways that you can share with the audience how you guys are expediting the capabilities to the field, sir?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. I think there are a lot of very innovative, smaller companies out there that we've been able to take advantage of their intellect and bring along some of our bigger partners as well. So SIBRs have been key to us, especially on the AI side, developing some of that capability. We still do the MTA piece. We've had some success there in terms of the Titan program, but acknowledge your point in terms of how cumbersome that thing can become. So breaking up big programs into smaller chunks and having requirements that have annexes as opposed to a single 600-page block of paper that you can't ever change. So with the annexes and then leadership that allows you to iterate through those requirements, we're able to inject capability in 6, 12, 18-month cycles. And I think that's the way forward.
Nice, thank you, sir. General Mikish, over the enterprise, I know that you guys touch pretty much every system out there, right? So you have a massive challenge just like everybody else does, sir. So just from your perspective, sir, looking at managing large-scale operations, enterprise level, long-term system requirements, and just the challenges with software and how things go. How are things looking with you and your side, sir, with getting stuff delivered quickly?
Sure, and to Ward's point about scale's always a problem for us. Because usually it's, if you think about HR, it's every single soldier, all three compos. So scale's always a challenge, and right now there's a huge push, as it should be, to leverage commercial software. How can we as an Army leverage commercial software, and how can we do that at speed, at scale, And if we're trying to do it, incrementally, like we're seeing, how can we put things out incrementally, not to the whole Army at one time? Very similar to how, transformation and contact is working. So we really, when the memo came out in March, that said a couple things for the SecDef memo. It said, hey, all software initiatives are going to be software pathway. All right, that's pretty clear guidance. Yep. Second, you're going to use the CSO and the OTA as your default acquisition approach for award and everything in your pre-execution phase. I was very pleased, and I'm going to give a shout out to Army Contractor Command, APG, Ms. Morier and her team. They jumped in full steam ahead and created the Army open solicitation model that gives us that CSO vehicle. So when we're happy to been able to partner with them and said, okay, we have a couple things, let's give this a shot. Let's go out and see. So if you look at what PEO Enterprise has done, I mean, we have 3 that are in, that have gone out and have gotten their white papers in already, and there's 3 completely different ones. One that is absolutely looking for new and disruptive technology, one that's looking for a program that is kind of have a restart, and then things like IPSA, where we're looking at how to continue to move IPSA forward with it. So those are 3 completely different models, and we're going to say, how do we use the phases? How do we go from white papers to demos to into these next phases and see how do we apply that? Another big pivot that we've seen, and we've put a lot of energy into with Mr. Garcia and the CIO team, is kind of revitalizing enterprise license agreements, not only for our PEO, but for the entire Army. Because I think we all would benefit that, and we're trying to work with our digital marketplace to be able to have a portal where anyone in the Army can go to find out where are the enterprise license agreements, where are licenses available, so we can reduce contracting actions if we can, and have an easy way to have access to that. So we're proud to be partnered with the CIO and help that along.
No, that's great. So ELAs are really important because, like you mentioned, so that'll definitely help out consolidate duplicate efforts across different organizations. So I think that's good, and that's a good point that you brought that up. Mr. James, you've heard the other 3 PEOs mention, what they're doing. From your perspective, from Strive, from simulation and training, what are you guys doing from a contracting side of it to deliver future acquisition side? Because there's always that requirement that these gentlemen can get, but from your perspective, how does that work out for you guys, and how you can share with the audience, sir?
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing some common themes across. So in terms of the acquisition piece, and we've got, I think, 12 MCAs, major capabilities, and then we have 5 or 6 MTAs, and then just 3 software pathways. But we've actually had a little bit of success with those MTAs in terms of the flexibility, and we're really working hard with our ASALT teammates and our functional proponents to really decompose these massive requirements into manageable, measurable increments or chunks of capability that we can be more flexible with. And we saw this in our synthetic training environment, live training systems, increments 1 and 2. So when we stood that program up, what we envisioned as that first tranche of capability, increment 1, and then the second tranche of increment 2, increment 2 technology ended up maturing much more rapidly than the increment 1. So using the pathways, we were able to switch to 2, and we ended up deploying and fielding, and we're actually in a rapid fielding decision now for that increment 1 capability that was originally further out in the program because the technology matured faster. So we were able to realize some flexibilities there that the MTA structure afforded us in that case. And so that's kind of our acquisition approach there. And then from a contracting standpoint, well, let me say up front, it helps when your PEO was the former commanding general for Army Contracting Command, okay? Yeah.
Cheater.
So that helps a lot. But what we're really, so we're looking at the OTAs and the commercial solutions offering. I'll self-report at Strive. We don't have a whole lot of resident knowledge, if you will, with the CSO piece. So we'd love to patch in on some of your engagement with Ms. Moyer and just be flies on the wall and listen to how you all are cutting your teeth with that. But we're working the OTA piece heavy. And what we're really focused on with our contracting approach, and you'll see this in our next generation constructive effort, is we're focused on the teaming arrangement. So we're really moving away from the lead system integrator concept or the prime contractor. We're not looking for one firm to do it all and to manage it all, right? We're really wanting to tap into that non-traditional industry base and really glean from those subject matter experts within. For Strides, it's logic, it's gaming tech, it's the behavior models, it's terrain, it's intelligence, probably a few other areas I'm leaving out, but we really want to be able to tap into those firms directly and not have to go through a natural barrier that a prime vendor or a LSI presents. So, and it's not that we don't want, that's not a snub at the traditional firms by any stretch. We just want a little bit more control over our own destiny and in terms of managing performance, engagement, as opposed to having to go through and work through a prime contractor to get there. So that's really where a lot of our emphasis is, and think some of the next gen, we're nested pretty well with NGC2, and we're as the pathfinder there, and we're kind of following their lead, if you will, in that regard. And then the other piece we're focused on is the development approach. So we've heard about Agile and those Agile principles, and where we've really put a lot of emphasis on, and I think you mentioned it, General Mikish, is that operational user engagement and involvement, right? So we're embedded, and I was doing jumping jacks inside when I heard Major Johnson's brief this morning about how he's embedded with PEO C3N, and we're doing the same thing on our end with our operational users. So we're embedded with them, they're embedded with us early on in the process. So we're talking about requirements definition, we're talking about pre-solicitation, we're already bringing in our operational users, and they're part of our team going forward. So that was one of the big, among the other Agile concepts, that's one that we're really putting a lot of emphasis on going forward.
No, thank you, sir. So you mentioned there, and it's a great segue for our topic number 3, wrapping up the acquisition and contracting questions. We're moving over to soldier-centered design and testing, right? You talk about being embedded. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of feedback here, and I know each one of y'all have mentioned this already. So we want to look at it from that perspective of what we're doing now, especially now with a stand-up with the role of the TICs, the transformation and continuation, right? That's where the units are collecting operational feedback, right? That's important to give you that mechanism for us to get that feedback. So Mr. Mixon, starting over with you, sir. When you look at your team support across most dynamic TIC units across sensoring and electronic warfare, how is incorporating real-time soldier feedback into the development of the requirements, and how does that influence the testing, the design, and just the overall fielding for continuous automation, sir?
So one of the worst kind of phone calls we could get is a Saturday afternoon or a Friday afternoon call from a unit saying, you gave me this stuff and I don't know how to use it. But that has happened. I had an industry engagement earlier today where they were sharing a similar story of something like that. So that is not how we do fielding or issuance of equipment anymore. We have literally experts living in Hawaii. We're living in Europe. They're living in CENTCOM's area. They are living at these locations, and they're experts on whatever kit we have issued, and they walk with them. And so if you saw Shadur Sanders show up at the football game he was starting, he had a whole posse with him. When the PM rolls out, he's rolling or she's rolling with an industry partner who's the expert on that system, rolling with their own systems engineers, and they're rolling in with requirements folks from the schoolhouses or CDIDs or whomever the proponent was for that requirement. And we're bringing people from ATEC. So you got this posse that's going there, they're going through the issuance of the equipment, and they're learning, and then they're staying, some of them, or they're coming back habitually in order to get that feedback, and then we're going back and changing designs as appropriate. But that is how we are exercising this across a number of programs within the portfolio, with whether it's 25th ID, 10th Mountain, folks at Fort Hood, each of the MDTFs. That is how we are rolling.
So that's almost like the real definition of a cross-functional team, bringing them out there and having everybody that you need there.
Absolutely, because everybody's got to be rowing in the same direction.
Sure. No, that's good. And that command presence goes a long way with the soldiers, you know, when you have the soldiers out there seeing that, and that just shows that you're vested and their voices are being heard. And it's important that we look at that. And especially as a former warrant officer myself, it's important that we get that feedback to you guys. So moving over to enterprise, so General Mikish, so when you look at your platforms, right, and what you guys are doing across the input and the challenges that have been faced across just any type of Army enterprise equipment that has been fielded, there's an expectation that the responses should be, you know, within minutes, within days, within hours, right, of how you look at how you do things and how you field them. You know, as you integrate this continuous testing Your feedback mechanisms, what are you guys doing right now from that perspective to help the soldiers at the enterprise level, sir?
Sure, and this is, I'd say, one of the things I'm most excited about as we transform, as a PEO and as an Army. For us, it's about, when I'm sitting with senior leaders, it's about how do we make software not only faster and iterative, but when we deliver it, it's easy to use, it's intuitive, that we can get away from TRADOC 40-hour blocks of instruction or having to send, an extensive a net team out to really, sit on the ground for long periods of time, like we experienced with some of our former ERPs. One of my proudest days is to sit and watch IPSA briefing out their sprint teams, and not one single PM person was a briefer to the G1 of the Army. No, it was E8s, it was warrant officers. They're the product owners of the certain areas. That's a great story. It's even better now that we have the user units out there this team here, we know how hard it is for the Army to cut an XOR to say, I'm cutting units off their training schedule to come over to help you develop software. But if we don't do that, if we don't have partnership across not only the PM, the industry partner, the functional, but now this new group emerging, this user group, we're not going to get there. In our training information systems, we're partnered with the 10th Mountain right now. When we do our updates to the Vice Chief, the 10th Mountain user groups are on the VTC with us. Nice. He's like, I want you all to stop talking. I want to hear from the platoon sergeant. I want to hear from the battalion commander. That's powerful because it's sending a message that I know that my coders may be there, and we were up in Vermont in the snow, coding alongside the infantry to make sure that we could iterate quickly, and not only, but we're making something that soldiers are going to want. So that is great. And then the last piece about ATEC, we're trying to embed ATEC. I think we're all trying to do that now. Testing shouldn't be at the end. Yeah. Testing should be automated testing to the best of our ability and observed testing by the testers along the way, getting that feedback at all these touch points so we can culminate when everything's done and it's not a long extended test period. So we're excited about where Soldier Center Design is going.
All right. Mr. Roberts, I know that you've heard the other questions are the same answers, but I think from your perspective, there's got to be a little bit of variance of how you guys are working with the TIC and those units. And what is C3N doing to get some of the feedback from the soldiers on ground, sir?
So, the establishment of TIC as a formal XOR and a formal tasking for the Army was very helpful to break the traditional rearm model of saying you have to wait, you're 6 years out, you have to come during this 6-month window or you don't come at all and you wait to the next cycle. So TIC has enabled the Army to implement a little bit more agile. We implemented the trail boss concept where we took, like I mentioned, a post-command 06 out of his PM job, gave him a second job, said, hey, you're the representative to the unit. All of our other PMs will work through you. You're our face. I once used the analogy of the car dealership is the face of Ford, but the car dealer doesn't make the cars. Ford makes them. So kind of that same thing. The trail boss is there with the unit, having those conversations, telling us what the unit's seeing, feeding back to it, and then using that feedback loop and a little bit of shift in culture, I think. And this is, my boss says it, but it's not just us. I think traditionally a PM is ranked on cost, schedule, and performance. A great example, I'll pick on Lieutenant General Collins when he was at WIN-T. WIN-T went to the test, met 100% of their specifications, and failed the test. Not because they failed to meet their cost, schedule, and performance, but they failed to meet the user needs. So I think shifting the mindset of how acquisition officers and acquisition professionals look at scoring themselves, look at capability-based outcomes. When the unit commander and his staff are talking about, you did a good job, I like this, that's more important than did you check the box of any one of those things on a document nobody cares about. So a little bit of mindset change and then a little bit of commitment from across ASAL to have green suit acquisition guys with their support civilians and contractors embedded with the unit, going to GRTC rotations, getting that feedback. What is a couple of dozen events the good major had on the slide. If you think they're across all 18 divisions in the Army, across all 3 compos, units out there are having that same kind of battle rhythm. So us pushing a deliberate presence of our limited workforce out to those formations has been that mindset shift on how we do business, and then that's enabled us to be a little bit more responsive and agile.
Awesome, sir. No, that's a great answer, sir. Mr. James, over at PEO Strike, there has some, I know that you guys work a lot with AI, ML stuff, right? That is something that's part of your day-to-day operations there. And when you want to create realistic and adaptable training and environments and just being able to automate the assessments of how you're doing the training, How are you guys incorporating STRI into identifying any gaps and to help with the iterations and improving the training, so for any type of delivery methods that you guys are working on, sir?
So we're incorporating AI across all facets of our product lines. I'll highlight a couple of the more recent ones. Actually, just last week, we've established, we've exposed our CTC data, our Combat Training Center exercise data, to a data lakehouse. I think that's the term, in the cloud. So we work close with our ECMA teammates. I see a couple of them in the crowd here. We work close with our ECMA teammates to get that established. And what that does for us is we're going to use that information, and it's both curated and raw data from our CTCs. So when you talk about all the sensors that go through those CTCs and that instrumentation data, we're feeding it to that data lake warehouse, or data lake house, correction, and that'll feed these other Army platforms, NGC2, for example, the Maven piece, and others, so that we can train these large language models to help us address and get after some of those gaps, right? So that's the biggest thing. And I don't know if anyone tracks the Chief's CTO, Dr. Miller. So he just got we're early on. We're in the proof of concept demonstration prototyping phase. He just took a look at it over the weekend and had some pretty promising, or we're encouraged by the feedback that he gave us on site there, and we're looking to further do another prototype here within the next couple of months on that, and continue to mature that technology and then scale it, if you will. Then another thing we're looking at is our after action report. So after these exercises that we run, we're taking that same data set and we're training AI agents to help us do some real time intelligent feedback and help us going forward with those future exercises. So that's something we're pretty proud of. We're working towards an MVP on that in October, November timeframe, as part of that Next Generation Constructive, NGC program. And the other piece I'll highlight is we're trying to better understand how we can scale AI agents to help us with our simulations. And I talked about the 300, 400, 500 people that kind of serve as pucksters. We call them pucksters that drive the behaviors during our exercises of various entities that are part of the exercise. So how can we train AI agents to drive those behaviors and influence those behaviors for both Blue 4 and Op 4 in our exercises? So that's something and that's more in its infancy in terms of our understanding how we would deploy that, mature it, and deploy it in our synthetic training environment. So those are just a few of the areas. I could go on for days, but Tim's giving me that look, so I want to stay on your good side. So I'm going to pause there and hand it back.
So it's different when you're up here. This hour goes by really quick, but when you're out there, I think it drags on a little bit, right? But either way, it's been great conversation. We do have one more topic, but I'm going to split it up maybe to 2 PEOs so that I want the audience, friend in the back, do we have any questions in queue already or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I'm going to tee up the last one for integration, and I want to talk about that a little bit and just how we can see how important integration is. And I don't think it ever was a nice to have. It's always been a must have, right? But there's a lot more emphasis that we need to integrate. As we look at the PEOs here, they're all integrated one way or another, right? We have to integrate with each other, and the same thing with the systems. The systems have to integrate with each other when they're fielded, right? So when you look at that and you think about the challenges, and Mr. Roberts, I want to start with you because of just the overall disconnected environments, and now with the NGC2, right? That's huge opportunity, huge lift with the huge office that you guys are working with. I want to look at there and look at the integration there, and maybe just talk a little bit about how that's working out for you and with the joint coalition partners and any contested environments, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so Next Gen C2 forced us to fundamentally shift how we thought about our problem sets. And in the early days, when I was Major Lieutenant Colonel Roberts way back in the 90s, we built individual stovepipes of programs. I'll use AFATAD as an example. AFATADs had its own software, its own hardware, and it only worked with AFATADs, and we had to define message protocols to share between AFATADs and other systems. But that PM had his own responsibility. He built his own things, and all we worried about was him. Very little bit of interoperability with other folks, really just at the message layer. shifting the construct of the PEO organization and the approach to Next Gen C2, we're now, instead of giving one mission to the one guy, we're now dividing up specific aspects of it. So there's a PM's going to be responsible for the transport, a PM responsible for the infrastructure, the data layer, and the applications. So fundamentally now, no one of those PMs can deliver the capability by themselves. So by shifting our mindset of how we're organizing and how we're delivering programs, forces us to do better integration up front, which means we're not trying to integrate at the training center with the guys trying to go in the box or at a test event. So that mindset has helped us. I think some pushes from Army Futures Command on how they wanted to structure Next Gen C2 from a capability perspective has pushed us in that direction. I think we see, to the international question, a strong push from Army Futures Command that Next Gen C2 is Army corps and below. I think that's focused on who gets the capability, and I think oftentimes we lose out the fact that the fundamental aspect that makes Next Gen C2 better than what we did last time is the data layer. By achieving standards in the data layer, allow us to share that data with our international partners, even if they're not using the same system. We still maintain that interoperability. And then a great conversation over in the Cyber Center about the footprint of radios, and then figuring out, again, I don't have to have the same waveform and the same radio. There are technologies, there are voice over IP solutions that allow us to have the interoperability. So getting beyond I have to have the same box, I have to use the same system, focusing on the data, voices over IP enables us to have that interoperability. But fundamentally, architecting it from the beginning is a holistic system at the PEO level and even cross PEO, where we share those touch points. Has been a big change for us. Stop doing this and start doing this has driven us in that direction.
Awesome, sure, great. So gentlemen, we're getting close to where we need to open it up to the audience. So what I want to do, I just want to start off with Mr. James and work our way back. Sir, just for the audience, a final thought that you want them to take away from this panel. I know there was a lot of similarities that we all spoke about, but if you can share your one message from STRI's perspective to the audience that you would like for them to hear today. So just anything that's important.
Hey, final word from STRI, hey, value, adding value, right? So that's what we're getting after. That's where a lot of our focus is on. And in order to do that, we can talk about the X's and O's and the technical piece, but at the end of the day, this is a people business. So all the folks, teammates in this room, it's about partnership. And partnerships, they're not lopsided. They're not, one way. They're kind of balanced, and it's a beneficial, a symbiotic relationship there, if you will. So that's our message from SHI. We look forward to the continued partnership with all of the teammates in this room. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, sir. John Marcus?
And for us, as we rebranded, we came up with the concept of think enterprise and act enterprise. So we have to stop, to Ward's point, stop thinking in silos, start thinking about an enterprise model. And our three pillars are speed, efficiency, and excellence. And to what Lee just said, it's going to take partnership. I talked about 4 different partner groups before. It's going to take all of us working together, and very much so the users, to be able to deliver software at speed. And we're looking forward to partnering with you all.
Very nice.
Thanks for having us today.
Thanks, sir.
So I guess I would ask for the industry partners, hold us accountable. I think, let me back up. If anybody here thinks they're going to sell me Next Gen C2, you're not. Next Gen C2 is not a thing. Next Gen C2 is an ecosystem. But hold us accountable so that I can tell you what the ecosystem looks like, and then you can come in informed about what your capabilities are, where your unique company's abilities can plug into that ecosystem to make it better. So ask me the hard question. Well, don't ask me because I probably can't answer, but you ask me the question, I'll find the right guy to answer them. So I ask industry guys, fellow PEOs. I think just about everybody in the Army is moving data some way or another. So I think at some point or another, one of my devices is plugging into your device and I'm trying to move your data around the battlefield. Ask us the question about the architecture, understand the architecture, and then help us figure out where you plug in, as opposed to just coming at with, I'm going to sell you Next Gen C2. So yeah, I would just ask for both the industry, the schoolhouse folks, and my fellow PEOs, force us to be transparent, ask us the hard questions so you can see where you guys plug in.
Very nice. Sir, you can close us up with one final thought from yours.
We can't be lethal, we can't be survivable if we don't get commanders the information, the sensor data that gives them knowledge and understanding to make good decisions. So for the 2 captains mixing out there and lieutenant mixing out there, that's what they're asking for, so they can be effective, they can be lethal and survivable.
Very nice, sir. Thank you. So we have some time left here that we want to open it up to the questions that came in through the TNA. Sir, can you, what questions do you have right now, sir?
Okay, well, we were going to try to get an individual question for each of our PEOs if we have time. So first for PEO C3N, what is the role of COTS solutions and open standards in the future tactical network? How are new communication architectures tested and validated in the field before being deployed to brigades?
That was an easy question to answer. So I think fundamentally, to move at speed, we've got to start adopting a better COPS model. I promised I would not give my minivan analogy, but I guess I can't keep that promise. So jumped in a rental car on the way down here. I was able to plug in my phone to the USB cord in the dash because I had a USB standard. The Apple CarPlay in the car opened up, started navigating for me because that was a standard. I think industry is much better at this than we, the government, are. If we try to think of the problem and then build a solution, we're going to be behind. So I think us adopting more COTS models where we can exchange hardware because we're using standard interfaces, IEEE hardware specs, open API standards, and sharing those. That's the way we can be agile, and I think that's a way to bring in more COTS solutions faster. It allows us to iterate with the users better. I think we still owe a little bit of risk reduction before a solution gets to the field. Like I need to test to make sure it actually works before I give it to the unit. But I can't go so far as to try to remove every single ounce of risk before I give it to the commander. I need to give the commander an understanding of what the capability can do and the risks, pros and cons that he needs to look at when he does it. But in the end, commanders assume risk, not PMs. So I think in the conversation of testing, I need to do a little bit of rigor before I give it to the unit, but I need to give it to that unit at a small scale early so that commander can understand within the risk he's willing to accept, is it the right solution? Am I putting it in the right place? Am I using it the right way? Because sometimes any one of those could be wrong and we'll end up not buying the right thing. So I think us being a little bit more risk tolerant, us being communicative with the commanders and starting small and iterating. You can iterate in hardware not quite as fast as you can with software, but if you take the same mindset, start small, fail often, and then I think you'll get a little bit better solutions back from the users that allows us to communicate back to industry a little bit better. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. The next question is for PEO Enterprise. What is the biggest technology challenge that PEO Enterprise needs new capabilities to address?
Wow. Well, I think right now, AI is the area we really want to break into. And we're seeing it in, I'll call it applied AI, AI that it comes through software as a service platforms that we already have. That's starting to get to our formations now, and that is helpful. I think the next big thing working with Army CIO is how will we be able to take large language models, agentic AI, apply that to our massive amounts of data sets and help our users on the front end, and that's what I would say is the disruptive technology pilot we have out right now on AOS, and on the back end, because data is our major problem. So how can we really take the power of AI, apply to our data to help us put humans at the more high value jobs that we need to get done, and let AI tap in there. And then, a lot of great conversations here at the conference this week already about how we're going to do that, but I'd say that's the biggest thing.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next, for IEWS, how does the Army get ahead of the threat by starting to identify threats that don't yet exist?
Identify threats that don't yet exist. Okay, so you want me to do the Army of 2040? Is that what you're telling me? I mean, I guess what we do is we definitely strive to pace the threat. We obviously leverage partnerships with the intelligence agencies that support us. We also talk to industry, and we talk to academia in terms of what's the next direction that capability is going, technology is going, and brainstorm. How could this be applied? How can it be disruptive? How can it give our adversaries, or better yet, us, an asymmetric advantage going forward? You talked about the agent of AI. I think that could be something actually that would be game-changing in the right application. But we need the Mensa folks and the patriots working within industry to help us figure that out, because, and then China will try to steal it. But that's what I think.
Thank you, sir. We got time for one more?
Yes, sir. And finally, for STRI, efficiency has taken center stage in today's Army modernization strategy. In your organizations across different domains, what does efficiency mean to you, and where are you most focused on driving it?
Efficiency for me is maximizing your outputs and your outcomes with the minimal amount of input, if you will, or resources. So for us, it's STRI, and I think I heard multi-domain in there. For us, it's really about convergence, right? So, for example, the same technology that we use on our training ranges, we support over 400 ranges, whether it's digital training, targetry, testing, what have you, right? So I think Ward hit it. We're managing those. In the past, we've managed those as programs as opposed to range capability, right? So for us, it's leveraging that technology that we're using on the test ranges. It's leveraging the technology that we use in our cyber ranges, leveraging those investments and implementing them, deploying them in our training ranges, and vice versa. So a lot of emphasis on that, and that's what, for us, at least in-house, that's what efficiency means for us. It's, how'd you put it, Ward? I'm gonna adopt that when it's not about the vertical, it's about the horizontal, right? So that's where we're at.
Very nice. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. So I think that wraps up our questions from the audience. For the folks that did submit, thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. Gentlemen, we're at time. Like I said earlier, this is one of the quickest hours that I've experienced, and I appreciate the insights and just sharing what y'all have done. I know that each one of y'all have a busy schedule, so you attending here today and participating in this event means a lot to us. So thank you on behalf of FC International for being here with us today.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, and please welcome Ray Cross back to the stage.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here today. You know, when Paul Fredenberg opened up this morning, he talked about the complexity of the threat and the operating environment complexity and how that compelled us to teamwork and partnerships. And I think that was the subtext of this entire conversation, was how you're here to help and support people in the field. So thank you again. In lieu of a speaker gift, AFCEA will make a donation to the Signal and Cyber Museum Society on your behalf. And we will take a break from programming in this room until 3:45 p.m. Until then, we have options for additional programming in other rooms. Refer to the mobile app. Thank you very much. Hope to see you later.